Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show that covers all things marketing. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast gives you the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. Whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand, you've come to the right place. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast starts now.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I am so excited for today's episode, and I hope you are too. And in fact, I hope you are so excited about today's episode that you run down on your screen and you hit subscribe to this podcast. We post new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, always filled with the latest and greatest in marketing news. And this episode is no different. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn. I've talked on previous episodes about Twitter, about Instagram, and about Facebook. So this is the LinkedIn episode. If you want to know how your company can attract new employees, how it can attract maybe new customers through LinkedIn, if you're able to do that, if your company has a product that can sustain that, for sure. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's episode. So please feel free to leave a comment down below what you think of LinkedIn marketing, or reach out through social media. We do have a GSMC marketing account on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and I would love to see you over there. So to start out today's episode, let's talk about what is new in the marketing world. Chipotle will be releasing a brand new menu in 2020. Well, it will have brand new menu items. I'm not guaranteeing a brand new Chipotle here. But it is hoped that it will keep up the momentum that has been building over the past year with this new marketing idea to have these like health bowls. So Chipotle stock has risen 28.5% over the past year, which is amazing for the brand and amazing for the company, and really just shows how much marketing has really gone into their products this year and their branding. Over the past year, it jumped 93.6% from previous years. That isn't the stock itself, that's just comparing years. So they've definitely had a great year, and they're going to continue having an even better year with these new lifestyle bowls. They're going to be promoted as being the healthy alternative at Chipotle. So I'm going to take a guess right now that we're going to see some really great and really beautiful advertisements coming from Chipotle, educating people on why this is a healthy dish and why people should be choosing to eat at Chipotle versus other fast food restaurants that also offer a healthy option. Honestly, my opinion is that how healthy can it be, because it is fast food, but that's not what we're here to discuss. We are here to discuss the marketing behind it all. So I am recording this podcast on January 1st. They are due to come out on January 2nd. So by the time this comes out, the Chipotle Lifestyle Bowls will also already be out. And why don't you tweet me a photo of them or tag me in a photo of them, and we can have a conversation of what the advertisements look like and how maybe we can learn from them as marketers. The second story of today comes from both Disney and Netflix. And I really liked the idea of this story because my mind immediately went, are we finally comparing Team Baby Yoda to Team Irishman? Basically because, I think we'd all been waiting since Disney Plus came out to see if it was going to affect Netflix. And I've talked about on other podcasts, the technology podcast that I also host, that Friends and The Office have come off of Netflix, which are two of its biggest streaming shows. So I've been very curious for a while what was going to happen to the streaming service. And although we don't know right now what is going to happen, if it will be exiled, if it will be canceled, if any of this stuff if anything really bad will happen to it, we don't know yet. But what we do know is about 1 million Netflix subscribers have made the switch in the past month. They have ditched their Netflix profiles. They have said, goodbye to all of those Netflix originals. See you later, Orange is the New Black, and hello, the Lizzie McGuire reboot. So that's really interesting, especially just as I say that now, to compare those two shows, because wouldn't you say that the audience and the demographic that Disney Plus is trying to reach with shows like the Lizzie McGuire reboot is a very different audience from the demographic that was trying to be reached with Orange is the New Black? So it is interesting to look at it from a marketing perspective of how can Disney Plus steal the viewership of Netflix when clearly they are targeting different audiences. How is Disney Plus managing to target all these different audiences? So if you're in a similar industry as Disney Plus and you're looking for some marketing inspiration, definitely look at them, because it seems as though they really are taking over Netflix, and I'm going to watch very closely to see what happens to this news story over the coming year. The next story we want to talk about is another streaming service, but we want to talk about Amazon's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So for those of you that don't know, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is one of Amazon's first original TV shows, and it's about a female comic living in the 1950s and 60s. It follows her adventure through fame and fortune, heartache and heartbreak and love and heartbreak. So they always go all out for the promotion of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and season 3 was no different. They flew 20 fans to Las Vegas for the latest Mrs. Maisel premiere. 20 of the fans who had been tweeting about the show since 2017 when it was first released were flown to Las Vegas in style in a pink airplane, and they got treats, snacks, they got to take photos with the plane, and they were just treated to a marvelous day. And all of it was documented on social media, so even if you weren't there, you still got to see how great Amazon takes care of their audience and how much they care about their audience. And every year for the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel's promotion, they do always go big. Last year they had Mrs. Maisel Day, where everything at select department stores were suddenly the same price they would have been in the 1960s. So they definitely always go big with their promotions, but they never go big in the way that a lot of companies do now, where they only solely do digital promotions. Instead, they try to do something interactive and real. So that's something we can definitely take a look at as marketers and sort of take the mental note of, yes, it's a digital world. Yes, we should always document it in a digital way, but it is not the only option we have. And at the end of the day, people are still people, and they enjoy real things. Okay, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take our first break of the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to be talking about all things LinkedIn, so stay tuned for that. You are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and I'll be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast covers everything tech. The hottest mobile phones, tablets, games. We review it, rate it, test it. Whether you're Microsoft or Apple, Android or iPhone, we'll give it to you black and white. The Golden State Media Concepts Technology Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jakewish, and before the break, we were talking about what is new in the marketing world. We talked about season 3 of Amazon Prime's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel and how they promoted season 3 not through social media, but by flying 20 of the most marvelous fans down to Las Vegas to have a magical day filled with tons of little inside jokes from the show. We talked about Disney Plus stealing 1,000 subscribers in the past month from Netflix, and we talked about how that might be affecting the reigning queen of the streaming services, which is Netflix, and the possibility that they might be dethroned sooner rather than later. We also talked about Chipotle releasing their new lifestyle bowls and what that'll mean for the brand and how they plan on promoting it. We also talked about what an incredible year Chipotle had and how introducing these bowls will probably just make them even bigger and badder than ever. And so now that we're back from our break, we are going to talk about LinkedIn. So I've done other episodes on Twitter and on Instagram about how you can grow your social media following on those, but I want to talk about LinkedIn because, one, it can be a great way to build your customer base, but also it can be a great way to market to new employees who you're hoping to attract. So to start off, we are going to give you some tips on how to make a really strong LinkedIn page, and then we will talk more about which pages you should follow and which ones are going to help you out the most. So the first thing you need to do is update your profile image and your banner image. A lot of companies have this, but they don't think of what it looks like on all of their devices. So what I want you to do is have an image for your profile and your banner that are coherent with each other. A really good example is Hootsuite. Hootsuite is known for their little owl. So they have their banner just being white, but then the profile image is the little owl poking out. So altogether, as a concept, it looks really strong and really beautiful. And that looks good on mobile, desktop, iPad, you name it. It looks good on there. So I want you to come up with an idea and a theme that is going to, one, match your brand no matter what. You'll be able to go back to this all the time, even if you do switch it up for, say, the holidays. But this is also going to be something that will be attractive and will be able to catch the eye. So if you're looking for the specs that you need for those images, it is 300 by 300, and it is preferred to be in a PNG format. So definitely make sure you know that for your profile image. For the banner image, the pixel specs are 1,536 by 768, also in a PNG format. So definitely go take a look at those. Another company that does it really well that maybe you should follow if you're interested in looking for examples is Sephora. Sephora's background is their classic black and white stripes, and then their profile image is just their logo. So altogether, their profile looks like one of their bags. So that's super eye-catching and super great to look at, and I'm sure they put a lot of work into it, but it didn't take a lot of work to create. The next thing you need to do is write a compelling About Us section. So this is really where you get to shine. This is the main part people are going to be reading. This is the main part people are going to be taking to add into their cover photo. So really it's important to make sure this answers the big questions: who you are, what you're doing, what you're looking for, what type of values your company has, what your company's mission statement is, and overall what you think the company culture really is and how other people can fit into there. And of course, this is going to take a few different times of reading it and rewriting it and getting other people's input on it. But at the end of the day, it really is the most important part. So make sure that when you have your LinkedIn page, you have that on there no matter what, even if it's not 100% perfect yet, because it might take a few renditions to make it 100% perfect. Fill out your other key fields. So make sure that you know what region you're in, the company size, the address, and a link to any relatable websites. This seems like something you should definitely have, like just to begin with, but I didn't have all of my major key fields filled out on my LinkedIn until about a year ago. So there's definitely some sneaky ones on there that you may have forgotten to fill out. So just make sure you go through and click on all of those to make sure you are at the top of your game. The next thing you need to do is the same thing I tell you to do on all the other platforms. So you're going to roll your eyes at me, but the number one thing you need to do is plan your content and make sure you are consistently posting engaging content that has to do with your brand. It is something that is so important on every social media page, but it's something people forget and take advantage of and take for granted so easily, is the fact that it's easy to post, it's hard to plan, so I'm just going to put it off until the very last minute and then post something kind of silly, but at least I posted. No, plan your content out in advance so that you're able to produce and engage properly with the type of audience you want, rather than just throwing darts at a dartboard. The next thing I want you to do is, if you're not a business of one, which perhaps maybe you are, but if you're not, then I want you to get your employees to write reviews of your company on LinkedIn. You don't get to tell them what to write, and you don't get to dictate what they write, but recommend that they write a review, because it definitely does speak a lot if a company is able to point to their current employees and say they enjoy working here, or they value this about the company, or they value that about the company. So send out a group email and encourage everybody to write a review on the LinkedIn page. Something that will also really help out in the long run is if you're the CEO of the company, or you know the CEO of the company and you know they have a very strong LinkedIn page, get them to link it onto the company page. This way people can see where the company started, where it came from, and the type of original values that have always been instilled in the company. It's just a really great way to give context to people who maybe aren't familiar with your brand. Something else you can do on LinkedIn is keep tabs on your competition. This might seem a little crazy and a little unorthodox, but LinkedIn is a great way to connect with people, so why not connect with those people that you're competing with? That way you're able to see what they're doing in the marketplace differently and maybe gain some inspiration from them. The next thing I need you to do is a little bit outside of the LinkedIn world, but it's still definitely valuable for anyone who wants to grow a following on LinkedIn, is if you have an email signature, make sure you are linking to the business LinkedIn page and your personal LinkedIn page if you're running the company. If you're just an employee, don't feel the need to do this, but if you're running the LinkedIn page, make sure you have it on your email signature. A lot of people might be looking for it, and it'll just be easy to find it on yours. Or if you're emailing people about coming in for a job or coming in for an interview, then there's a quick link for them to click and find your now beautifully curated link. Okay, everyone, we are going to take another break from the podcast, but when we come back, we are going to explore some companies you should be following on LinkedIn to gain some inspiration from them to help you really grow your audience. So stay tuned, because you are listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
welcome back to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and before the break, we were going over the tips and tricks you need to do to set up a beautiful LinkedIn profile and make it easy for people to use, easy for people to engage with, and overall make it really, really easy for you to find the best people that will fit with your company. So now that we're back, I want to first encourage all of you to please subscribe to the podcast. We post episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday discussing marketing. And if you write a review down below of what you would like me to talk about next, I'll put it in the next episode and give you a shout out. So definitely do that, and definitely also reach out through social media. So now let's get back to this episode. The next thing I want to talk about is companies you should follow on LinkedIn if you're looking to gain a little bit of inspiration for your marketing on the platform. Indeed. So Indeed is the first one I want to talk about, and it's a little bit ironic that I'm talking about Indeed because Indeed is also a job hunting site similar to LinkedIn, but not really. Indeed uses the LinkedIn profile to educate people who are following them. So I'm not saying that you need to follow Indeed to be educated on how to find a job, but what they're doing is so valuable to their audience because their audience doesn't feel like they're getting sold to. Their audience feels like they're being taught something important. So if you have a product that maybe people don't easily understand, use LinkedIn as a platform to educate people about your platform and about your product so that they're better able to engage with it in the future. Indeed also does a lot of really fun stuff and a lot of creative stuff like Monday motivational quotes, job hunting tips, and links to articles on job searching resources and trends. So they definitely know their audience. And they're definitely focused on doing what's right for their audience versus what is right for them. The next one I want to talk about is the TED Talks Daily LinkedIn site. They are the main thing that they do, and it's not going to shock anybody, but they mainly use a lot of videos to really demonstrate their content. They post a lot of their TED Talks on their actual LinkedIn site. But the reason it's so valuable is because it's a really great way to show interactive media and interactive content on a LinkedIn site that still demonstrates the brand and still demonstrates the company's values. Google is the next one. So Google always kills it on all of their marketing platforms, and LinkedIn is no different. One of the main things that they do that I really would encourage you to do is they do interviews with their staff. So they like to post links to the blogs that staff writers have written, and they like to do short little videos talking about each of the employees. This really shows company morale. It shows people being included in their job and people being excited about their job. So I talked earlier about how you should get your employees to write a review. But if you're able to get them to sit down and do an interview, then absolutely do that as well because it is so, so valuable and so, so interactive for an audience. Adobe. So Adobe, for those of you that don't know, because maybe you're not complete and total tech and marketing nerds like I am, but Adobe is basically the best of both worlds for tech and marketing. It lets you design things. It's a tech product that lets you design things. And honestly, it is an industry standard. It is highly popular, and people absolutely love the content that is produced through it. So, of course, the content that they're going to produce on their LinkedIn and all of their marketing platforms is going to be at the same level of what other people are using it for. So they also do a similar thing to Google, that they interview their employees, but they also post articles exploring the intersection between tech and design so that those people that are on there strictly for tech reasons can still love the articles, and those people that are on there for strictly design reasons can also fall in love with all of the content that they're posting. It's interactive for everybody involved and a lot of fun to look at and explore. All right, this is a strange one, and so I just need you to stay with me here. The last one I need you to follow is LinkedIn. I know, it's hilarious that I'm asking you to follow LinkedIn's LinkedIn profile, but if any company knows how to use LinkedIn better, it's LinkedIn. They understand their product, they understand how to use their product, and they're going to show you how to use their product. I've talked a lot already about how important it is to educate your audience and to demonstrate to your audience what your product is. And that's what LinkedIn is doing with their LinkedIn profile. I mean, their bio alone says there are 20 million jobs on LinkedIn. Find one meant for you. Hashtag in it together. And honestly, that describes it better than anything else, what LinkedIn is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a way to connect together. It is supposed to be a way to learn together. So why shouldn't all of the content that is generated on the platform be a way for people to learn about your company, to learn about your product, and to learn about your marketing? So definitely go follow LinkedIn and definitely bring a notepad with you, because they're generating content that I truly believe that your company could benefit from. Okay, everyone, that is it for today's podcast. I hope you really enjoyed our segment on LinkedIn, and I hope you learned a lot about marketing on this new platform. Not that the platform's new, but it was new for us to talk about. If you have any other ideas or thoughts of things that you would like me to talk about on the GSMC Marketing Podcast, please feel free to put them in the review down below or reach out through social media. I love interacting with you guys on the platform, so I am definitely always over there answering your questions if you have any. So thank you for listening to the GSMC Marketing Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mackenzie Jaquish, and I'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the GSMC Marketing News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to any podcast app, and you'll find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news, you'll find it all on the GSMC Podcast Network. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.